Hi everyone, I'm really happy to share with you a new guest today for my podcast. Today I got Rebecca Swanson with me. So hi Rebecca, how are you?
Hi, Zay. I'm really well, thank you.
So, a little short introduction. Rebecca is a life coach, business strategist, natural health and wellness advocate. She's a psychology graduate, certified NLP trainer, and lifelong experiential learner. She's also mother of 3 children and a loving partner. So, that's a short introduction, but I can tell you that's a woman who have done a lot of things in her life. And just like myself, as a mother, anything else on top of it's a lot. So, hi, Rebecca. Welcome to my show officially. And so good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, first of all, I want to talk about a little bit about your background because I know you had a solid corporate background before training to become a life coach and studying psychology and doing a lot of different modalities and learning and actually become who you are right now, helping other women. So, can you tell us a little bit about your evolving story and how it led to where you are today?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. So, as you said, I fell into the corporate world as a teenager, and I spent 25 years in the corporate world. And through that, I started to, I guess, tick all the boxes that I was taught I had to tick to have a happy and successful life. So
Mm.
I climbed the corporate ladder very successfully. I educated myself. I found a man that I loved and got married and started a family. But one day I remember waking up and I just couldn't get out of bed. I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. And I remember standing in the kitchen and calling my boss saying, I'm unwell. I can't come to work today. And as he asked me what was wrong, I felt my eyes well up with tears and my knees just collapsed and I just hit the kitchen floor and I just didn't have any words. And
Mm.
all I could really struggle to say to him was, I'm really broken. And I'd suffered I suffered from adrenal exhaustion and had a complete burnout. And
Wow.
that really changed my perspective on life. And what I found is that I had been pushing and pushing and pushing myself to meet everybody's expectations in my world, my boss, my husband. But I was feeling so empty and exhausted. I had completely lost myself in all of that. I wasn't the wife I knew I could be. I definitely wasn't giving myself any time. I wasn't giving my son any time. And whilst I had a really successful and lucrative career, it wasn't satisfying in any way. It just drained everything out of me. And that was a real pivotal moment for me to then say, well, what's life about?
Mm.
I know I can be an amazing wife. I know I can be an amazing mum. I know I have a lot to contribute to the world. But how do I do that? And so I had to go on a complete self-rediscovery process of figuring out who I am, figuring out why I felt that I ticked all the boxes, but I was just so incredibly unhappy.
Mm.
And through that self-rediscovery journey, I learned so much about human beings, about the psyche, how our conditioning from culture and from our parents create these crazy beliefs and stories we tell ourselves. And we just get caught up in the busyness and the overwhelm of trying to be worthy and lovable and seeking all of this external support, when really we should be looking within ourselves and being true to ourselves and learning how to be courageous and vulnerable. And I couldn't help but rediscover a passion that I've always had for women and doing more really purposeful work. So I started my business part-time. I studied, I learned, and yeah, now, I mean, my life, I've been through a lot of things. I've been through setting up a business. I now have a son and twin girls.
Mm.
And it has been a journey I did lose my marriage at one point, so I've gone through the divorce. I co-parent. But what I love about what I do is I've experienced all those things, and I've learned how to get through those things in a really successful way, but more so with my emotional well-being intact.
Mm.
What I love about what I do is being able to use all of those skills and qualifications and life experiences to help women break through that overwhelm and come back to who they are as women, so they can be the wife, the mother, the daughter, um, uh, the employee or the business owner, and contribute into the world in a way that really helps this energy shift, this feminine energy shift that we're seeing in the world, and it's quite empowering. So yeah,
Well,
that's kind of,
there's so much I want to unpack from what you said. And I think one of the first thing it's about, I think if we can have a one-line story, like one-line title for the story that you share, I would say it's like a journey of courage, because, you know, to be honest, it will always be like, it's never an easy journey to achieve the external success, let's just say the career or having a family or having a lot of those things that people may love to have. But I think it's actually even harder to say I tick all the boxes, but it doesn't make me feel happy. So I'm not saying I'm throwing it away, but I need to deconstruct this so-called life that I built, and I need to figure this out. I think that's actually harder. It takes more courage to do that, to say I feel broken and I need to investigate, I need to figure this out. I think it's harder because on the outside, when people look at you and say, wow, you got everything like we wish for, why are you unhappy? But to say, to be honest and to say, but there gotta be more in life than this, and I don't feel ultimately in my soul feeling fulfilled, and I need to check this out. I think it's like even harder thing for women to do. And in this day and time, I think a lot of us are being pressured to be perfect, and inside and outside, you know, everything you talked about, the career success or having family and loving relationships, healthy body and intelligent and all this stuff, like inside and outside. What do you think got us there, like that pressure to be having it all? Like, what do you think it is?
look, the pressure to have it all. We're taught as children that, you know, we get this princess story when we're children, that, you know, just find the man that, you know, of your dreams and get married and have kids and life will be perfect and you'll have it all. But we're not actually shown how to do that. And it's not just as easy as ticking the boxes. The world gets busier. It's busier every single day. And we grew up, you know, women in our generation who are now mothers and, you know, in midlife, were taught what it was like to be a woman by our mothers and grandmothers. And they were homemakers. So we now, though, live in a world where double incomes are important. We still want to have children and nurture our children, but we also have the ability and the necessity. We have the necessity to work, but we also have the opportunity to contribute to the world in a really amazing way. And that ambition and that drive for us to contribute. So many women say to me, I just know I can help people and I want to help people. And I think that's beautiful. And we get very distracted. So there's this internal conflict of I want to be out there in the world helping people and achieving for myself, but I also want to be at home nurturing my family. And we don't get taught, we never got shown or taught how to have both and manage the balance of that. We have to figure it out for ourselves. And the only way we eventually get to a point where I had to figure that out for myself was because emotionally I was so overwhelmed. Everything. And finding the courage comes when the pain is great enough, I think. But what I'm passionate about is helping women identify before they have a complete burnout, before they get so overwhelmed that they lose their marriage, that, you know, they can't function well or feel like they're achieving what they want in life. helping them understand that before they get to that point, and showing them the steps, because we weren't ever told, we weren't ever shown. The life that we live now hasn't been lived before. The world we live in now hasn't been lived before. And being aware, being self-reflective of what's important to us only makes us better for everybody else in our life. But when we forget about ourselves, we can't be there for our kids. We can't be in relationships. We can't contribute to the world.
So that leads me to my next question, really. As in, like, so when women come to you and say, oh gosh, Rebecca, I'm so burned out, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so tired, I'm just exhausted, but I'm not where I want to be. And what is the first thing you ask them to do or look at? Because you talked about they really need to look at themselves, and what would you say to them? Like, what is my first step if I'm in that really low point?
Yeah, the first step for any woman who comes to me who's feeling that way, first thing I get them to do is to slow down. And once they slow down, they can have a little bit of reflection time. And I ask them to daydream the life that they truly want for themselves without any restriction. So people will say, well, I really want to live here. Oh, but I can't afford it. Or I really want to go and do this hobby or this, explore this interest, but I just don't have time. So the money, the time, they're all restrictions we place on ourselves. So the first thing I do is say, stop yourself when you hear a restriction come in and just sit down and daydream. What is it that you love to do? What did you want to be when you grew up? What did you love about the idea of being that when you grew up? You know, what do you crave now that you don't have? And really just write all that down and reflect on all of that to daydream that new life. Then, I mean, that's the first step. Then you've got to work out, okay, well, why am I stopping myself from doing that? And that's when you start working through silly beliefs and decisions and things that you've accumulated over your life that really, they're just restrictions you've placed on yourself. That's where I get everybody to start rediscovering what they're passionate about, what they love in life, and what that looks like for them in the future.
You know, okay, so that's really cool, because I know how the conversation that might go for some of them, not all of them, of course. So say, you tell me to dream, I say, okay, I want to be this, I want to be that. Say I want to be an author, I wanted to do things that I really love, I want to quit my 9 to 5. And often the next thing they will say, but I have to make money, but I have to be responsible for my kids, but I don't think I have any talent, but I don't have any time. So, and what I've learned is that often every challenge and obstacle brings an opportunity, because that's when you've got to dig deeper and you got to figure it out. And sometimes you get more out of you bargain for by just doing that work instead of stopping at the but looking at the but and doing it, deal with it. So what do you say to women when they come with, okay, I daydream, this is what I want to do, but it's almost silly to tell you because it's not going to happen, is it? Because of my buts. So what do you do next with them when that happens?
So the second step is to deal with the buts. As silly as that sounds, but you know, that is the point. It's working through how realistic the buts are. Are they just excuses because you're afraid? Are they beliefs that aren't yours, that you've taken on from your parents or from society, from mass media in some way? How realistic are they for you? And I take them through a process of really a healing process and work through those. We identify all those buts and really understand where they come from. What's the root cause? When did you first take on this but as your own?
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't theirs, we work through letting those go in a really constructive beautiful, healing way. Then we're left with what's the reality of your life, and how do we create a transition plan that you can go from where you are now and work through those buts. And it's about compromise too. Everything is about compromise. It's about working through the buts and getting to a plan that step by step you start incorporating those things that you love and that you want in your life again. And part of that is breaking through the busyness and overwhelm and really looking within yourself to face fears, because we're all afraid of not being good enough. We're afraid of not being lovable. We're afraid of not being safe. And they hold us back. We procrastinate, we avoid, and we keep ourselves busy to avoid feeling those, I guess, negative emotions, those fear, that guilt that we've accumulated. And when you can work through those step by step, you can start incorporating the things that you want in your life and appreciating more the simple things that are important for you.
And I love what you said, because I think that's really helpful. And I don't know whether people see it, but that's the beauty of working with a coach, because so often we have all this dialogue in our head, right? Oh, I would like to have a more purposeful, meaningful career, but I don't think I have any talent, and I have no time, I have responsibility, so no go. So that conversation stopped right there almost, that you got frustrated, you get more tired. But when you work with a coach, then like yourself, you help them to unpack and really look at the buts. Are they for real? And if some of them are not true, then we get rid of them, release them. And if there's some of them have value, then we look at how we're going to work through it. So I can really hear like why it's so important for women who want to have more in life to work with a coach. So how did you bump into, like, did you work with a coach so that you see the value of the coach, and how did you work out this is the way how you help other women? Like, is it the self-discovery / try and error?
No, it was. There was a part of that because, you know, I am quite an independent person, and my parents will say that I'm stubborn and you can't tell me what to do. So there's an element of, you know, getting out there and trialing and erring and accepting that you don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to go the way you plan. You just have to take on that this is going to be an experience, and there's going to be really inspiring, energetic experiences, and there's going to be some that, you know what, I've just stepped in the wrong direction. And one thing I talk to my clients about is I explain to them that our emotions are our guidance system from higher self or spirit or what have we. That when we trial and error, when we pay attention to our emotions during that trial and error, we can look at, if we're feeling really good about what we're doing, keep doing it. If we aren't feeling good, we may have gone a little bit off course, and that's okay. We're allowed to make mistakes. That's the whole point. You don't grow unless you make mistakes, and you don't learn. So correcting course a little bit is all just part of the journey, and having some acceptance over that journey is very important. But I sought out so many different coaches. I think my trial and error was, who's the right coach? What's the right course? What's the right education? What's the right material? And how do I put all that together? And I, you know, I spent a lot of money, on
investing
education.
in yourself.
I did, you know, I spent so much investing in myself, and some of it was very well spent, and some of it wasn't. And I had to reflect and go, well, what does that mean for me? I, as a coach, see the value in coaches as well. I currently have 3 different coaches / mentors. I will always have coaches, because you can get caught in your own perspective very easily, and you do need somebody to kind of mirror it back to you and say, really? And you kind of, okay.
You just hear what you said.
And it's amazing how it works. And I have, you know, I have the utmost respect especially coaches who have, and I always seek out a coach who's been there and done what I'm trying to navigate, has already navigated what I'm trying to navigate in my life. And so hence I will change coaches dependent upon where my journey's up to. And like I said, I've had many coaches. I'll continue to have coaches, mentors in terms of business, in terms of my spiritual growth, in just giving me a bit of a kick up the butt and saying, come on, you're being a bit unrealistic and putting expectations on yourself that aren't necessary. Just stop, ground yourself, and let's get clear about what it is that you really want to do here. And yeah, they're invaluable. I've become very close friends with a lot of my coaches over the years.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely value in, you try something, didn't work out so well, or you have been doing something for a long time, you need to change it up a little bit or add new impulses, because I think that, like, if you look at any grandmaster as an artist or a musician or whatever that is, you actually need that, constantly changing something so that you can keep growing, because if you stop, then life never stops. You will always have new challenges and ups and downs. So, but our learning journey never stops, because that's sort of help you to become more resilient and add new fresh materials and perspective and goodies into our life. So I agree with you. Like, we may keep we keep having coaches or mentor, but they keep changing. As we grow, we need different people and for different things. So I definitely agree with you. And sometimes people come into your life for a reason, and sometimes it's for a season, sometimes for a lifetime. So
I love that. I do love that saying. Yes.
Yeah. And what have you learned over the years instead of learning from coaches and teachers and things that people that you work with, like mentor, what have you learned from actually people you helped?
I learned so much from the women I help. Wow, I am inspired by them every day. And the inspiration comes from how individual every woman is. They are unique, they're beautiful. And the other thing, though, apart from that, on the flip side, they're also very similar in a way as well, in that they want to get out and help people. They want to be vulnerable. They want to be strong. They have all of these commonalities, but I love so much the uniqueness of a woman, and they teach me as well. I teach them, they teach me. It's a reciprocal relationship. I get so much from the experiences and sharing their life and their journey with them, and seeing the capacity of women in their ability to change and grow and embrace themselves is something that I didn't realize women had before. And it's a beautiful insight and perspective to witness.
And I think one thing I get from what you're saying was that, like, seems like all the women love to help others. It's like it's our nature to nurture, to help and support, very collaborative, and that's the feminine energy. And I think, like, we need the masculine energy to do things, to get out in the world, and certain things that we need to carry the masculinity in us to do certain things. But then the feminine energy is somehow less celebrated before, maybe in the last, I don't know, few hundred years, but it's actually super important, because the nurture one another, support one another, really benefit the whole. And I love what you said about that with women. And also, like, I often think that the teacher and the student relationship constantly changing as well, because through people's story, we learn from one another. And I think that's really beautiful. And it should never end in that sense.
Yes, I agree.
And so now, like, going back, like, we want to give some people who are maybe, say, feeling so exhausted, overwhelmed, and we talk about taking like things slow, pause. Is there any other things that you will recommend ladies out there to be mindful of, so that they may not get into that sort of exhaustive state as well? So something that they can, think about, take home with from this interview.
Yeah, sure. There's plenty of things.
All your tricks and your tools and everything.
Probably one of the things that I find is really transformational that anyone can do. I do it myself, and I do get my clients to do it as well, is to have generally a morning routine of me time. And that can consist of anything, but it's about nurturing yourself first every day. And it can be a brief walk, without headphones or with headphones, with a coffee in hand, however it works. Sitting down under a tree and just writing your thoughts down, doing a little bit of stretching, or reading some great quotes and inspirational quotes, or just sitting and just staring out and sitting with your thoughts and daydreaming, whatever it is that feels nurturing, to incorporate that into whatever time you can spare first thing in the morning before you start your work day, before, when the kids go down for a quick nap the first time, rather than going and rushing around doing housework, just go and spend a little bit of time with yourself. I think that is a huge take home, and something that a lot of women don't allow themselves or give them permission to do. So yeah, that would be my one take home.
Well, because you said it, like, you should do it in the morning, because often we try to keep us like, oh, we nurture ourselves, but like, let me have a bath tonight. But then by tonight, there's kids and there's everything crazy, and there's no like nurturing time when it comes to like 10, 11 p.m. So I think it's good to do it in the morning when we have the chance.
First thing. Yeah.
And one thing I want to actually back up a little bit that you mentioned, I forgot to ask you further. It's about, you talk about, I felt that you're describing when we're struggling, almost that when we're on the edge, like we're about to get overwhelmed, we're about to get more exhausted and feeling like, the world is collapsing around us. Don't you think sometimes that's the edge? We kind of occasionally need to be at, okay, maybe I was dramatizing it a bit, like, as in, we need to be at a place where we feel uncomfortable, let's say, so that we know it's almost like a breakthrough. Like, we need to get uncomfortable, say, maybe it's about work that we've been in a position for a while, we're quite comfortable with that, but then we think it doesn't fulfill us anymore, so we become uncomfortable. A kind of like edgy feeling. That seems to me that sometimes that's when we're about to jump to the next level. Do you see that in women? Sometimes it's nothing really seriously wrong, perhaps, but then it's about they're about to go into the next level. So they may have this uncomfortable feeling and don't know how to cope with it.
Yes, that's definitely true. It's called a purification point, actually. And it's when we get, so uncomfortable that with the current circumstances that the pain becomes quite great. I often find that it comes with confusion. It comes with that's the sign. When you then get to that confusion point, you have a choice really to step into the next cycle, the next growth phase, and learn what it is that you need to now do next and embrace it, or get overwhelmed and fall to pieces and fall back into old patterns of being a victim and blaming other people, or you can stand up and say, okay, what does this mean for me? What are my emotions telling me? What's the next step for me? And how do I take that next step? And one thing that I say to women when they get to that point, the first thing they need to do is just remember to breathe and trust themselves, trust their intuition, and trust that whatever they're feeling is real and has a purpose, and there's a lesson in everything. You just need to ask and trust, what's the lesson and what do I need to do next for me?
And it goes back to what you said at the very beginning. You got to slow down. And I'm sure when Oprah decided to finish her Oprah show and before her own network, there's a period of time where she's, let's just say, not edgy but uncomfortable, or as you say, brings with confusion. And when people say I don't know what's next, it may not be a bad thing, because
No, not at all.
that's when you may step up into another new challenge or a different path, and the I don't know can lead to a lot of great things. But it's what you just said about slowing down, taking the breath and trusting it, and sit at that I don't know place for a little bit, and figure it out, and that's when the coaching comes through, isn't it? That's, you don't have to sit there on your own.
Definitely. Yeah, well, look, you know what, we can get caught up in our own worlds, and we all do it. We just get so caught up in our own minds and our own worlds that sometimes it is hard to see what the next step is and what the purpose of the confusion and the overwhelm is. And having an external person to be able to guide you through and give you some steps to take based on what they learnt is invaluable to help you get out of that cycle of yourself. You know, I think that it was Tony Robbins who said, the problem with people is they think they should not have any problems. And I love that, because it reminds me that when I hit the next challenge, the next stage of my personal growth or my life, and I can get a little bit, oh my God, this is a problem, and I don't want to have this problem. I now embrace it and go, oh my God, this is amazing. Here's an opportunity for me to grow and to learn and to embrace life in a very, positive way. And you're right, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know. You just have to be willing to experience and look at the purpose and the lessons and the growth that can come from that, and how you can then use that experience to then go on and help others.
Beautifully said. And I think it's a perfect way to wrap up today's conversation, because it's about, don't worry, we all have problems. You cannot have problem-free life, and it's okay to be, I don't know, but that other people can help you. And I think it's a beautiful way to really go in on a circle, saying that it doesn't have to be overwhelming, it doesn't be exhausting, but you just need to slow down and trust who you are. So thank you so much for today's conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I think it can help a lot of women out there who may be sitting on all these burning question or feelings. So if others want to connect with you or work with you, different capacity, what is the best way to connect with you online?
Sure. So either via my website, which is rebeccaswanson.com.au, or on Facebook. You just search Rebecca Swanson Coach, and you'll see my page come up.
Oh, I will put the links on the bottom of this page as well.
Excellent.
So that'll be easy.
On my website. So my website has some links just to book in a quick 15-minute conversation and call back. So if anyone wants to just validate where they're at and get some ideas or have any questions about what we've spoken about, they can just click a schedule button there, and I'll give them a quick 15-minute call back at a time that suits them.
Perfect. And wow, beautiful. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much, C. It's been lovely.